Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Behind the Layers podcast. Today's episode is the starting point of your confidence journey. Even if you already are on this journey, understanding the self image will totally change the game for you. So, before we get started, settle in, get yourself comfortable, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw and just think about something you're so extremely grateful for. And once you feel that gratitude, let's dive in. So, why is it that some people are naturally confident? They are not socially anxious. They don't constantly think negatively about themselves and they don't have anxiety. And then you have other people who constantly compare themselves, feel less than others, have social anxiety, and just lack the confidence. What is so different about these people? One thing is the self image. The self image dictates how you feel, what you think, what you do. It influences your relationships and your future. So, today we're going to dive in what the self image exactly is, how it's impacting your life, and how you can practically change it to optimize your emotional well being, your mental health, your confidence, and your future. So, whether you're someone on their mental health and confidence journey, or you are someone who just needs more confidence because they've goals that are so big and dreams that are so big that they just need to feel good about themselves and believe in themselves, this episode is for both of those people. So, to help you understand how much of an impact the self image has, let me explain my journey with mental health, my journey with depressions and social anxiety. So, from the age of 8, I started to grow anxious. I became shy. I was constantly thinking about myself, how people were thinking about me. I was constantly beating myself up, being my biggest inner critic. And I had the biggest mood swings. So I would feel really depressed some days, really happy other days. And I didn't really understand something was going on because at that age, you don't talk about these things. You think that is life. You think everybody feels that way. Turned out, not everybody feels that way, and you don't have to either. So I just let these issues keep going. And then when I became a teenager, the insecurities increased by a lot, but I also learned how to mask. So I learned how to convey confidence, but still inside the anxiety was growing worse. The depressions were coming up all the time. And then I hit my all-time low when I was 18. I was in such a depressed state. I was so socially anxious, and I started going to therapy. And to be honest, that worked. I started to feel better. I didn't feel my best, but I definitely felt my depression getting better and my social anxiety also getting a tiny bit better. But then again, I would always fall back. The depressions would keep returning, the social anxiety would keep returning because the root cause was never solved. I didn't know that my mental health was getting triggered by my self image. So I had this really negative self image. And when you have a really negative self image and you constantly think about that, you talk down on yourself, you feel negative about yourself, you never can do anything right, no shit that your mental health will decline. That is the biggest trigger to get right back to where you started. So the moment I understood this and actually started to heal the self image, the most insane things happened because first I started to feel a little bit better, more positive, but still I was afraid that eventually I would fall back. But I never did. Of course, I had confidence drops. And of course, sometimes your mental health drops. But the moment I healed my self image, the social anxiety never returned. My confidence increased. And I got emotional resilience. So if something went wrong and my mental health declined a little bit, I would bounce back because of the self image. So, what is the self image to be exact? The self image is basically a collection of all the beliefs that you have about yourself and experiences you have with yourself that make up how you view yourself, how you feel about yourself. And I have this beautiful quote I always teach my clients, And it's about changing the self-image, because when we change how we view ourselves, so the self-image, we change how we feel about ourselves, which is self-esteem, confidence, self-love, which changes how we show up in the world, and that changes our future. So we have these beliefs, and the moment we change them, the negative self-image, we can change our entire life. But it's not easy. I'm going to tell you that if you don't have the right tools, changing your self-image will be like swimming against the current, because it's such a complex thing, and the solutions are quite simple, but if you don't have the right tools, you're going to get lost. But don't worry, we're going to chat about that. So we have this collection of beliefs, and some people have more positive beliefs than others. And that is just, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's just how you are wired. So you can have two people in the same bad environments, and some will create a negative self-image and others will create less of a negative self-image. And it's important to realize that your self-image, everybody's self-image, is filled with negative beliefs and positive beliefs. The problem arises when the negative beliefs outweigh the positive ones and they grow, because that's the thing with the self-image, it makes itself stronger. So these subconscious beliefs, they are about who you are, how others perceive you, and your place in this world. And how I always like to explain it is that your mind is this really big closet, and it has all these boxes with specific beliefs on them. And they're quite extreme beliefs, because the mind doesn't really understand duality, at least the subconscious mind doesn't. So it has statements like, I always do this, they never like me, everybody finds this, or everybody thinks this of me. It's very, very extreme. It's not like a belief about some people like me. It's often people like me or people don't. It's very simple. So you have all these boxes. And what the mind now does, it tries to seek proof for the things it already believes. So you have these boxes in your brain and you start to find evidence for those beliefs. And that is still totally okay. The problem lies in having eventually a really big box that is negative. Because now what will happen is you're going to seek evidence and make up evidence of this negative belief, and you're going to fill this box, and eventually it overflows and it takes up so much space in your brain, and it creates symptoms like mental health struggles or low confidence. And that is what the problem is, those big boxes of negative beliefs. And not to ruin it for you, but you cannot remove or delete those boxes. They have been built over time. But what we can do is put a new box there, a box that is positive, a box that makes you feel good about yourself. The moment we do that and we grow this box, eventually it will outweigh the negative box, and we start to have a default belief of confidence, of feeling good about ourselves instead of having the negative one. So most of these boxes, they're created in childhood. So we didn't have a lot of influence on them because we didn't have the filters to filter through information at that age. So in our childhood, we create most of our boxes through repetitive situations based on how we perceive things or traumatic experiences. And this isn't to say that you cannot create boxes after your childhood. So the main ones are created in childhood. Others are also created later in life, sometimes when something really repetitive happens or really impactful or really traumatic. But we can also consciously create new boxes. And that is something I do all the time. If I have a goal, but I need a specific belief to get there, I will create a new box. I will start finding proof for that new belief, and I will grow that box and make it my default belief. And something quite magical happens in negative sense, but also in positive sense, once those boxes are established. Because what we already said is that your mind always seeks proof for the things it believes. So it creates this filter. I always like to refer to it as these glasses that you put on with your beliefs. So take, for example, the belief, nobody likes me. You put on those glasses and you go about your day, and now you see evidence everywhere of people not liking you. Maybe someone is ignoring your text, and instead of thinking they must be busy, something inside you feels that it is you. They don't like you. Or you're speaking with a colleague and they are frowning in the conversation, and all of a sudden you think, you know what? I don't think they find me interesting because they're frowning. So you find evidence everywhere. And you will even ignore the evidence that is not in alignment with your negative belief. So, for example, you talked to 3 people that day. One conversation was crap, and 2 were really good. People were really, really, really interested in you. If you have a negative belief of people not liking you, you will not really believe those first 2 conversations. You will just not think about them, or you will make up in your mind that they were just being kind and they didn't want to speak to you. And you will fully focus on the negative conversation because that is in alignment with your beliefs. So I hope by now you realize how much of an impact your self-image has on how you feel, on how you think, and how you perceive reality. Some other things that I want to cover on how the self-image actually influences your life is quite a list. It is affecting your feelings, mostly because it affects how you perceive things. So if somebody ignores your text and now you feel sad all of a sudden, that is often a relation to your self-image, because now you have a belief that is making you sad. Because someone who doesn't fear not being liked or doesn't fear being abandoned, if somebody ignores their text, they wouldn't mind. And I am the perfect example of that. Because when I was struggling with my self-image of people not liking me, I would take everything personally. And if somebody wouldn't respond, I would think something was wrong with me. Right now, there's no thought that comes up if somebody doesn't respond. If I really need a reply back, I will think probably, oh, they must be busy. Let me resend another text. But there's nothing getting triggered because that belief that I used to have is not affecting my emotions anymore. And even if we look at the positive sense, if you have a belief that you are good or you're pretty and you get a compliment, it is much easier to receive that and get a positive feeling from it instead of you not believing that and you kind of pushing it away and you're not allowing that feeling in, if you understand what I mean. So beside it affecting your feelings, it also affects your thoughts, how you think about yourself, how you think about the world, what opportunities you see. And when it influences your feelings and thoughts, it will also influence your actions, how you respond to the world, what you do with your time. And that will influence your future. So your self-image is in direct connection with the future you are going to live. Some other things it is affecting is, of course, your confidence. I think if I know your self-image, I know if you're going to be confident or not. I know what struggles you might have. So if you have a negative self-image, you likely struggle to stand up for yourself. You people please, you procrastinate, you have perfectionism, you compare yourself, you feel less than others, you have imposter syndrome. The list goes on. So if you show me your self-image, I can see most likely how confident you are feeling. That is how much your self-image impacts your confidence. And finally, what not a lot of people actually think about is that your image or your self-image impacts all your relationships. The relationship you have with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your romantic partner, with your boss, with your colleagues, and even with money. If you have a belief that money is hard to get, it's going to impact your relationship with money. If you believe that you are not good enough, it's going to impact your relationship with your employees or your colleagues or your boss. So every belief always impacts your being, how you feel, what you think, what you do. So it impacts your life, your future, and your relationships. So it impacts every little thing. So by now, I hope you realize how important the self-image is and how important it is to consciously choose what you want your self-image to be. I want to give you a little example of one of my clients. I'm not going to share her real name, so let's call her Ashley, and her struggles with her self-image. So she came to me struggling with friendships. She didn't feel like her current friends really liked her. She was afraid to seek new friendships. And sometimes even her family made her a little bit uncomfortable and insecure. So she started to isolate herself and she only saw or connected with her boyfriend. And that made her feel really lonely and really bad about herself because there was this desire to meet new people, but at the same time, she wasn't doing it, and the fear would only increase. So she would feel fear and disappointment in herself. So the moment we looked at her self image, we found that she felt like she was not fun enough, not interesting enough. And that was impacting all parts of her life, mostly her relationships, because she was seeking evidence for people not liking her or not finding her interesting or fun enough. And she didn't go up to people because she was afraid of rejection because she wouldn't be fun or interesting enough. So she was really sabotaging her current relationships, her future relationships, and just constantly feeling down about herself. Because if you have a fun night out and you get home and you start to think about, I wasn't that fun, I wasn't that interesting, even the fun things don't get fun anymore. So, of course, we healed her self image. And right now, she has a bunch of new friends. She goes to activities alone and makes friends there easily, without hesitation, without the social anxiety, without negative thinking about herself. And her current friendships are much, much, much stronger and better because now she actually believes they like her, they think she's fun, which boosts her confidence, her self-esteem, it grows her relationship. It's amazing. So I wanted to share this just to show you that what the self-image can do for you, what it did for my mental health, what it did for my confidence, but also what it did for Ashley, her friendships and her relationships in her life. So here is how to get started. If you want me to hold your hand and actually guide you through the most effective processes that I also take my one-on-one clients on, this spring, I'm going to launch the Inner Confidence course where we are going to heal your self-image fully. We're going to focus on that in one of the modules. It is so potent. I'm so happy I finally got to record everything I always teach my clients because truly more people need to hear it. More people need to learn how to heal their self-image on their own because it will change your life. It will change your life. But let me give you some tips so you can already start right now before the course launches. The first thing is to really become aware of negative emotions, negative experiences, and negative thoughts that come up quite often, that are repetitive. The moment you have a sense of what that is, we need to explore it. That is step 2. We need to explore what belief might be behind these negative feelings and these negative events. And the easiest way to do this is to write down all the negative thoughts you have repetitively, all the situations that you fear, all the things that make you feel negative about yourself or life, and see if there's a correlation between them. What do they all have in common? Because once you can find what they have in common, it's much easier to find the negative belief behind it. So for example, if you always feel negative when you are with other people, okay, then it must be a social belief with other people included. Or when you always feel bad when you don't look good in your eyes, maybe it has something to do with validation or being pretty, appearance, whatever. So really take your time and reflect in your day-to-day life on what brings up the negative emotions and start exploring them. And the moment you have them, write about them. Where did they come from? How are they affecting your life? Because sometimes understanding something can already help you let it go and detach from it. So really understanding it. And then the final step is to think about a new belief that you want. Often what's best is the exact opposite. So if you believe nobody likes you, have a belief that everybody loves to be around you and start seeking proof for that, because the mind, especially the subconscious mind, is built upon proof. And that is why I used to not really be a fan of affirmations, because if you're just going to say affirmations in the mirror, but you're not doing the belief work, you're not seeking the evidence, that affirmation might make you feel good in the moment, but it's not really doing anything. However, if you pair that with evidence finding, that is where the magic happens. So try this out. I would love to hear my DMs, how it goes for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I had this 1.5, almost 2 month of a social media break, so I didn't respond to the DMs. But right now, I'm gonna try my best to get on my DMs every single day. So if you need help with anything I've just mentioned, just ask or just subscribe for the waitlist for the inner confidence course. If you loved today's episode, make sure to share your key takeaway on Instagram so I can reshare it in my stories. But for now, thank you so much for being here. I hope you loved listening as much as I loved recording it. See you again next week, same day, same time, same place. And sending you much love, Melinde.